Hi, Joanna. Thank you so much for joining me in this podcast episode. Really appreciate it. How are you today?
Oh, I am good. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, and I'm so excited to share about my book today and
Yeah,
look
the
forward to
pleasure
it.
is mine. Super excited to learn about your newest book, which is Burnout 911. Especially
Yeah.
if we say 999 if you need for any emergency, but in the US it's 911, which is interesting name come up with it. So how did you come up with the name for like the book?
Sure. I'll mention that, especially the 911 portion, really it came to mind when I sat back, and it was really towards the end of writing the book, of understanding the impact
Mhm.
burnout has, right? For those who are in the thick of being overwhelmed, sometimes even depressed,
Yeah,
it truly is an emergency. If you let things go without addressing them, they can get into very dark places. In fact, I had an expert interview just earlier today about the spouse of somebody who basically committed suicide as a result of it. So that's
wow.
that's the extreme of where it can go, and it can be very serious. And that's part of why I titled it 911. It was truly my own story, where I did have a wake up call before it was too late. But for other individuals, maybe it's they're getting on that path and it's a little too late. So it's important to wake up
Yeah.
when you're in burnout, and take care of it before it's too late.
Yeah, totally agree. And I know like mental health can be so scary. Like other illnesses can take over your mental illnesses. Like if you're
Yep.
not dealing with the mental illnesses, like no matter what in the world, you can tackle it. Because last weekend, last Friday, actually, I had two panic attacks, one after another within like space of half an hour. And I know how I felt like. I felt like my life gonna be ending there because of so many health issues and everything. The worry crippling in the same time, and it's been piling up for last 7 8 hours before you actually kick in for them to panic attacks to be doing that. So a lot of people actually they don't seek help and don't ask for help. They're so embarrassed to do that. Like when I had the panic attack, I actually rang my brother-in-law, like pick us up, my wife, me, and my kid, so we can be safe at home, even though I have to go to the hospital or something like this, they can be taken care of. And I openly told them like this is the kind of disorder I have, like since I was a teenager after losing both of my parents. But many men, especially, they don't speak that, and they think I'm a strong, I can do it, I can manage it, and eventually they end up having a heart attack, or like they get so severe, like that it's really hard to treat. So moving back to your book, like burnout and the rescue solution you have on the book. So how did you come up with the topic? And is there something related to your life, like anxiety, depression? How did you actually, why did you actually write the book?
Sure, great question. Thank you for asking. And it truly is, the book contains my own story of burnout, but I've also interviewed a dozen leaders
Mhm.
in around the world, in fact, from South Africa to Egypt to all the way in UK to US,
Yeah,
truly around the globe, and all areas of industries as well as leadership steps there, because I wanted to see how prevalent this is. And their stories are included in the book as well.
mm,
But the reason why I really sat down to write the book, it was the wake up call that I had. And also during the pandemic, it dawned on me, and I realized so many other professionals in general, especially if they're working in the corporate world, but not only, right? Even if you're an entrepreneur, burnout is really big and it's not addressed enough. And we need, so I wanted to contribute to that voice, to share my knowledge, and the framework that I used and learned along the way, that we can and should eliminate burnout.
yeah,
And in fact, I have a podcast series myself that's called just that, Eliminate Burnout, where I share the stories of others who went to burnout and what worked for them, in the hopes that somebody else out there who's going through burnout realizes they're not alone
yeah.
and there are ways to address it. Now, I do want to share just briefly my own wake-up call, because I think it will resonate with the people in your audience. And I'll be sharing the interview here with my audience as well. And it would be great if somebody who's listening gets help, right? And gets some awakening, if you will, or realizes perhaps they're in the same spot, and there is a way out. So I'll share that I'm the type A, very driven professional, went for the big career right out of school, worked for the big guys, and that was the ingrained mentality: go, 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 achieve, get to the best companies, get the highest level of leadership, just go, go. Which inherently, that's not bad, right? Unless it gets you on the other side where you get into burnout. So my wake-up call happened when my dad passed away.
Sorry
And
to
it was
hear that.
rude, it was a rude wake-up call.
Yeah.
But a much needed one. And I'll share exactly what happens, because it was quite eventful. So I got a call at 5 a.m. in the morning. I initially hang up the phone, thinking, well, who's calling at 5 a.m.? I just hang up the phone. And then the phone called again, and it was my sister. So I picked up. I realized it must be something important. And there came the news that my dad passed away. I'm in the US, so I live in the Chicagoland area, and my family is back home in Romania, Eastern Europe.
Right.
So I flew over the ocean there to Europe to take part in the funeral and say my goodbyes and be there with my family to mourn. Now, I want to share, though, when that call came, the first thing that I thought about after I hung up with my sister was the fact that I had to go to work that day, and I had very important deadlines, and they were important, but to a point, right? Very important deadlines that I needed to take care of, and I could not miss that day, right? My flight, I had scheduled my flight for later that day.
Yeah.
I think it was after business hours specifically, so I can go into work and get my work done before I leave. Okay.
Yeah.
Wanted to share that because that's the type of mentality, right, that gets you into burnout, right? Here I was getting the news that my dad passed away. He's the only parent I had alive. He passed away. And all I thought about was that I needed to go to work and
Yeah.
finish my work before I go. And it just, all of this awareness came after the fact, when in fact I came back from the funeral. So I also only took 3 days off, because that's how much time off the company was giving me for bereavement leave. And I could not stay any more day, right? Because I had important deadlines to come back to. So again, that's part of the mentality, right? I booked it for exactly 3 days. There's a big time zone difference, right? It's night there when it's day here. So I was literally a zombie through the entire 3 days I was there, but I pushed myself to do that, again, coming from that mentality. The big wake-up call, though, happened on the flight back, which was a very eventful one. It was a small flight, so my flight back over the ocean had 2 legs. It was a small plane flying from Budapest to Zurich, and then from Zurich over the ocean, in fact, to America.
Right.
So on that small flight, we needed to pass the Alps, right? Go across the mountains, Alps. And we caught some bad currents to the point where the plane was shaking really bad. I've been in planes before, and so things happen, right?
Yeah.
Until the point where you feel like, we're going to crash now. So I was holding on to my seat. And I thought, well, we're going to land pretty soon here, because the pilot announced we're going to land. And then he comes back on and says, it's not safe to land. It's too much turbulence. We're going to go back up, across the Alps, and land in Zurich from the other side. At that point, I started to panic. I thought, if we came down all the way and was this much turbulence,
Yeah.
how can it be safe to go across the mountains, right, to land on the other side? And I really panicked to the point where I started praying because I thought, this is it. I was also pregnant with my son, 5 months pregnant at the point, and all I could think was, this baby will never see the day of light. We'll crash in the Alps. Nobody will find us. It was in March. The
Yeah.
Alps were covered in snow, and nobody will know where we are. So I really panicked and started praying because I did not know what else to do. And my prayer apparently got really loud. We did. So I'm still here. Okay. So for those who are
Yeah.
listening, I'm still here. It ends well. We did eventually go across the Alps and land in Zurich on the other side. But when we landed, though, the stewardess, the flight attendant, came over to me and offered me a glass of water. And I realized my prayer probably got really loud because they heard it and thought I was in
Yeah.
distress. Came over to offer me a cup of water. So I asked them, were you not afraid? I was afraid for my life. I thought we were going to crash.
Yeah.
And she said something that she said stood with me until today. She said, I trusted the pilot knew what he was doing. And I thought, wow, the pilot knew what he was doing. So that in that moment, that was my wake up call when I thought, wow, she was talking about the pilot, but for me, that meant, God was truly kind of speaking to me. It's enough. You
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
stop or you're going to crash. So it just, in that moment, it just kind of opened a new world. And I realized, wow, I've just went to my father's funeral. I didn't even have time to wake up there. He was gone, right? I didn't see him before he passed away to say the proper goodbyes. And here I was rushing back to work to finish my work, right? It just was a big wake up call.
Mm.
And from there on, I kind of changed my life a little bit because I realized a couple different things, which I'm sharing in the book as well, that are a big part of those who go through burnout. The first one is the fact that I started with the big companies, the global consulting firms. And it was a huge schedule, a lot of travel, things like that. I did not burn out when
Yeah.
I was there. I had changed. So in a sense, I sort of understood as we were trying to start our family and I was expecting a kid, right? I understood, okay, this kind of lifestyle, I cannot sustain. But the burnout did not happen there when I was working those long hours. I changed my industry and went into government. And that's where I burned out. So
Mm.
it dawned on me, hold on, I changed my environment, right? I changed what I thought was creating my burnout, right?
Yeah.
The culture of achieving the long hours, all that push that you get from your boss. I changed to the industry that everybody thinks, right? Government does nothing all day, right? Just in general, that's kind of the mindset out there. I changed to that industry, and here I was in burnout now. After I changed my exterior, right, my environment, it did not fix it.
Yeah.
So it dawned on me, it's inside here. It's the way I choose to show up. It's the drive. It's the way I operate. I gotta change that, right?
Yeah.
So there is a couple different things. And that's the first one, right? We got to understand it's not the job. It's not that we have a full schedule. It's not that we have 10 different things on our plate. Although, of
Mm.
course, those contribute by all means. That just
Yeah.
adds up on top before you cannot see yourself from underneath all that. But what's the source of all of that, though? It's not all of that exterior stuff, right? It's inside here. And the choices, of course, we make out of that mindset that we have, that we need to keep driving on and on and on,
So
right?
you've
Like
been
we're
working with a lot of leaders and yourself as well, and you've written the book. So what are the main causes like people get burned out? Do you
so
see?
yeah, and that's a great question. So first of all, it's truly an imbalance, right?
Right.
We tend an imbalance in realizing that we are a full human being. Work or like a pie. This is a little bit easier for people to think about it. Our life is a pie, right? There are a lot of different slices there. Work is just one slice, right? And then we have our family, our friends, our faith, our health, all other areas, right? That might be important for us. Why burnout typically happens is because we put all of our effort or a lot of our effort and time and resources into maybe one or two of those slices, right? And ignore the
All
rest of the
others.
pie.
Yeah.
And so no wonder, right, we feel discombobulated and we're overwhelmed and we're scattered and, we're rushing around and nothing works. And it starts to affect, of course, our health and our family and our relationships and everything else. And I say work, right, because a lot of people migrate towards that and put all of their time or, their waking hours at least to work or to creating income, right? Which is important. We need the money to support our life, but at what cost? I ask. At what cost, right?
Definitely.
If your health is gone or your mental well-being is gone, who's gonna do all that, right? At what cost?
Yeah, I realized that last week, like when I going through the panic attack, and like the moment I had for a one day, like nothing mattered. Like my family didn't matter, my wife, my child, my focus wasn't going to them. My health, my business, I was like, forget about my business, it doesn't matter. But last 5 years, I built a business, seven-figure business. Just a blink of an eye, I just stopped caring about it. My child is like, I can give my soul to him if something happens to him. But at the same time, like, couldn't even focus. Like, when your mental health affects you, the love of your life and everyone, you seem to be like, who are they? What things are like we've been working so hard, it doesn't really matter anymore. Because
Yes.
the moment, like, it's only people can actually realize it when they're on the deathbed. Like when he's about to die, nothing matters. Like, like everyone's come to see you, visiting you, everyone's holding your hand. But when it's about to your time is go, like, and then nothing is matter. It just you and your soul is. And if you believe in a God, then you're only thinking about that. Other than nothing else is matters, right?
Yes, indeed. And so I'd say, right, let's not get there, right?
Yeah.
Let's think about now, right? So whoever might be listening to your podcast and when I share it to my audience, if you're there in the audience, right, take a moment now and think about what's important.
Yeah.
And then the next question after that is, are you dedicating time and effort to nourish those areas that are important to you? Are they part of your schedule? Are they on your schedule, right? If I were to come to your home today and ask you to share your schedule, are they on the schedule this week? Not, at the end of the year, next year, whenever, this week, are they on your schedule? If it's not there, they're naturally important. Or you're telling yourself they're naturally important. And that's unfortunately how we get down the rabbit hole and spiral into, overwhelm, depression, burnout, panic attacks.
Yeah.
So do we want to get there to have the wake up call like I did? Or would you rather take some steps now to think about the slices of the pie that are in your life, right? And I mentioned a few, right? The first one for me too, and you mentioned God, the first one for me too is my faith, right? My belief system. Okay, am I aligned, right? Am I aligned vertically? Do I spend time to understand that alignment and also, find my peace in the end, right? Whether you believe in God or not, do you have that internal peace, right? It's truly about that. And then it's your health. Number two, right? If you don't have your health, if you're in the hospital, nothing happens.
It's true.
right? So it's better to take care of that now, right? Whatever you need to do, exercise, eat better, go visit the doctor and do your checkup, whatever that looks like for you, right? And then your relationships, I would think it's number three, right?
Right.
Whether that's your family, if you have a close family, we all have parents, right? Even if we don't have close, our own family, it's the parents that are not going to be there. Like
Mm-hmm.
that was a rude wake up call for me when I lost my dad and I did not have a chance to say goodbye before he was gone because he was across the ocean. It's a
Yeah.
rude wake up call. You don't want that wake up call, right? Reach out now and mend those relationships, grow those relationships, right? And most of all, spend time there, right? Even if it's just a 5-minute call, that makes a huge difference for you, first of all,
Yeah.
but then of course also for the other person on the other line, right? You feel more connected, you feel the support of those you love. And it's a lot easier then to be productive and to go over your life and increase your business and all of that. But those are the foundations, right? If you don't have those foundations, or we all have them, but we ignore them, right? If
Mm.
you ignore them, nothing else happens. So it's important. And then I'd say one final area that I'll mention, and all of these areas are in my book in a little bit more of a detail, and I'll share a link to the book that people can get on Amazon. It's 99 cents right now. So it's truly just my contribution to the world. I'm not making any money, obviously, off of it, but I'm hoping that it'll help others who are in burnout not get there. The final piece that I wanted to mention is truly what I call your purpose or your why, right?
Yeah.
Finding your calling. Why are you here, right? That's kind of a big question sometimes for people, but it's really understanding what's truly in your heart, right? If money and time were no object, right? You had all the money in the world, you had all the time, there's no pressure there. What would you do? Right?
Yeah.
How would you spend your time? Where would you put your talents and efforts and go for that?
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes that's hard, right? Because we're caught in a family and a job that we have and things like that. But be creative though, right? If you're not following your heart, you're only going to follow somebody else's vision and somebody else's work. It's not
Mm.
your work in this world, right? So do you really want to live somebody else's life or the life dictated by somebody else? By your boss, by your society, by, even your parents, right? Sometimes they put those hopes on you, but is that truly you deep down? And I have exercises in the book, in fact, to help you get there, right? How do you drill down and find that out?
Yeah.
But it's important to think about that pie, right? And then
Definitely.
nourish it. Like I said, does it show up on your calendar? Because in the business world, we all say, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. And it's true, right? If you
Yeah.
don't block time for that 5-minute call, right? To maybe an old friend that you haven't connected, but you have thought about it, you just never find time. Or to your mom or dad who are not close to you, or whoever, whatever is important to you. Block that time. And we think, oh, I don't have an hour. Okay, if you don't have the hour, schedule it for 10 minutes. You can
Yeah.
find the 10 minutes, and that 10 minutes will truly refuel you. And you'll be much better for that. And of course, because of that feeling, that next time you'll find more time and more time, right? Until you get to the point where you're supposed to be and where you really feel balanced. Because in the end, right, it's that feeling that we live a good life, right? For
Mm.
ourselves and for those around us.
Yeah, totally. Totally agree with you. So yeah, Joanna is going to end up this podcast. It's been a great pleasure to having you. So those who's listening, if anyone wants to reach out to you or learn about more about you or find the book, where's the best place to find you all?
Sure. And I'll share the link with you and you can share it in the notes for the podcast. But you can find it on Amazon and it's available internationally. In fact, it hit bestseller in several different countries. And I'm happy to hear that because, again, my mission is to share that knowledge and to spread the word that there
Yeah.
is a different way to live. You don't have to get into burnout. Or if you're there now, there's steps you can take to get back on track. So anybody can find it on Amazon. I also have a free Facebook group where I have, and I mentioned my podcast series, it's called Eliminate Burnout. The Facebook group, it's called The Ultimate Work-Life Balance. And it's free, it's easy to join. I'll share the link to that as well. And also, I wanted to encourage your audience to share in the comments for your podcast their one takeaway, right? One thing that resonated with them for our talk today. We will go back and check those notes. And I'm happy to gift a copy of my book, a free copy of the book, to the person who's been most active there in the comments and what resonated with you, the one thing that you're perhaps going to do going forward to have more work-life balance in your life. And you'll share with me, and I'm happy to give that book. We'll share the links as well. And happy to also help anybody who might need the help. Just reach out. I'm happy to do that even on a free basis, because truly my passion is that one day we will not have burnout. We really don't need burnout. And there is a different way to live so you don't get there. And I'm happy to help anybody who needs that help.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I wish you best of luck, Joanna, coming to this show, and you have a wonderful New Year and Christmas, and best of luck with your new book as well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. Merry Christmas and happy holidays for those who celebrate. And thank you again for the opportunity to be here.
Yeah, the pleasure was mine. Thank you so much, Joanna. That's a wrap, guys. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast episode. I hope you enjoy and got some value from it. Those who's listening, if anyone interested to learn more about Joanna, you can reach out to her, and I'm gonna leave the links below. And until then, talk to you in the next episode. Take care.